Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made this deen such a way of life that it is designed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to last until Yawm al-Qiyamah. No other deen was designed in this way. And there are two arrangements that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made that make up part of this design. Two very important elements. First thing is that the teachings of this deen are such that they can be continuously applied across the different eras, historic periods, in the past, in the present, and in the future. Teachings are very robust, and their applications are such that they are very practical. And though the conditions of the human beings, the circumstances of the human beings will continue to change until Yawm al-Qiyamah, the teachings will always remain applicable. In other words, no matter what time period it is, the teachings of this deen will always remain applicable. There will always be application of the same teachings. And of course, there is a great role that thousands, hundreds of thousands of people have played in not just preserving the texts of deen, like the preservation of the Quran took place, the preservation of the hadith of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam took place, but also laying down the principles through which the applications of those teachings will be decided. What is known as fiqh and the principles of fiqh, the principles of ijtihad, all of these things were laid down over centuries. So it's a very strong structure of teachings. And as long as we stick to those teachings and we stick to the principles that are required for applying the teachings, it will remain applicable. The moment we let go of the teachings, or we let go of the principles through which the teachings are applied, deen becomes irrelevant. It has no meaning to our life because it's no longer applicable. And that's exactly what has happened with other sharias. They had great teachings, but people started letting go of them because they felt those teachings are no longer applicable. They felt that those teachings were outdated. Possibly the teachings were for another time, and maybe they were too harsh, or maybe they were insensitive to the changes of society, or maybe those things were no longer used, or maybe people just weren't interested anymore. Maybe the teachings were just about restrictions and limitations, and they weren't teaching people how to solve their problems, how to resolve their issues, how to settle their affairs. So gradually, slowly, the teachings were basically phased out by the same people that were following them. And all that was left was some teachings that pertain to creed, beliefs, and some teachings pertaining to certain worships. This is what remained of those religions. Everything else was at a grand scale phased out and treated as if it was no longer needed, it was no longer necessary. And self-proclaimed authorities stepped forward to play that role, whether it was an institution, it was a body, or it was a person, or it was a group of people who presented themselves as the ultimate authority to decide which part of that religion was applicable and which part was no longer applicable. If they formed a consensus or they formed a view that such aspect of deen needs to be left out, they would leave it out. If they felt that something new needs to be introduced, they would have the authority to introduce that thing in deen even though it did not exist in their religious texts. In this way, the teachings began to crumble and fall apart, and they became disjointed and distant And people started ultimately feeling that this is just some beliefs. We're having trouble connecting with these beliefs. These are some worships, we're having trouble connecting with these worships. And how does this feed into our daily life? And how does this solve our problems for us? So the teachings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us in this deen are complete, they're comprehensive, and their applications are always alive and fresh. So just like the complete deen could be implemented by the Sahaba in their time, the complete deen can be implemented by the people of today in this day and age. So that's the first part of this arrangement. The second part of the arrangement is people. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has provided within this deen people that have continually worked to preserve and also to restore the teachings back to their original shape whenever someone tried to distort them. And many efforts have been made. And those efforts continue. Sometimes it's in the form of a line of thinking that deviates from the line of thinking that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam presented, the Sahaba radiallahu anhum upheld. Sometimes it's a belief that just happens to be convenient at that time. And these types of beliefs kept popping up. For some people who've gone through, for example, a great loss, a great tragedy, and they don't want to come to terms with it, it's convenient for them to believe that, no, this could not possibly be predestined. It's not possible. This happened because of such and such thing, otherwise this was not part of the design of God. It becomes convenient to believe that. And sometimes that belief becomes so strong that a person feels the need to propagate it. And people did. And sometimes it becomes convenient when a person fails at their own hands or does things to harm themselves, to damage themselves. It becomes convenient to say, just blame it on taqdeer. So you have then a group of people that deny free will altogether. It's convenient. But the belief then, in order to maintain one's own belief, because it's challenged, a person starts justifying it. Person starts justifying it and they get stronger and stronger and stronger. A person's own iman is weak, so they start rejecting notions of akhirah. It's convenient for them to believe that right now because they haven't made the effort to build their iman in what Allah has revealed. What Allah has revealed to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what Allah has revealed to those before Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. وَالَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْكَ وَمَا أُنزِلَ مِن قَبْلِكَ. They haven't made that effort. So the end result, وَبِالْآخِرَةِ هُمْ يُوقِنُونَ, is absent. So for them, it's convenient to just outright reject it. For people who never took out the time or stayed in the environment where they could understand the attributes of Allah, it was convenient to deny certain attributes of Allah. Every time one of these lines of thinking appeared, it became like a little sect. It became a movement. And especially in a time when people were very much concerned with and occupied with their religion, anything that was of a religious nature, it also became an issue of emotion, sentiment, passions. And so you can see it does not take a genius to use religious issues to get people embroiled into a controversy, use their passion, excite them to make them very, very upset or very angry against another group by using a religious point. And this is what happened. So those movements that became sects were always very closely interconnected with political movements or political agendas. Every single time. There was some kind of a power game behind the scenes. How do we capitalize this? We have this much social capital. We have this much political capital. We have this much influence. How can we How can we monetize it in the political sense? So this has been going on since the time of the Sahaba. But in every case, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us people who came forward and restored the mindset of people to what it was when Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam left this world. These are those people that are referred to as the Mujahideen, the Mujaddids of Deen. These are those people who devoted their entire lives to making sure that not one word of the Quran is misinterpreted. Not one hadith of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam that needs to be implemented is being ignored. Nor are fake ahadith being fabricated for the sake of giving currency to someone's thinking. Nor are beliefs going off in the wrong direction. Nor are the applications of Deen being misused. So from all the areas of Islamic sciences, from tafsir, from hadith, from fiqh, from aqidah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us people who stepped forward and returned things, restored them to exactly how they needed to be. And that is an arrangement that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made. And the ahadith also indicate that يحمل هذا العلم من كل خلف عدوله. From every later generation, there will be some people, some just people, some upright people who will come forward and carry this knowledge. And what will they do? They will remove the misinterpretations of people. The Harif al-Ghalin, those that were extreme in their views and twisted Deen so that it fit their views, they will remove those misinterpretations. Intihal al-Mubtilin, those who wanted to spread falsehood through this Deen, these people will call those people to account. وَتَأْوِيلَ الْجَاهِلِينَ, the misinterpretations of the ignorant people. So in every generation, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala produces those people. And it is because of those people that we have our Deen in a sound and preserved state today. Therefore, it becomes necessary for us to also do two things. I mentioned that there are two major arrangements that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made. So we also have two responsibilities. The first responsibility is to connect with those teachings in their pure, untainted form. Yes, there will be varying views within mainstream Islamic teachings. Those varying views are not varying religions. They're all within the same Deen. Sahaba radiallahu anhum also had varying views. So that is not the problem. As long as we're connecting to the views that are held within the consensus of the Ummah. The moment we start adopting views that are out of that consensus, that are out of that pool of acceptable views, then the moment we step out, there's a problem. So learning those teachings, learning the message of the Quran, learning the gist of the message of the ahadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and of course devoting our lives to adopting those teachings, implementing those teachings. This is the first thing. And it's about taking Deen as a whole. It's not about taking that part of Deen which is convenient. اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم وأتممت عليكم نعمتي ورضيت لكم الإسلام دينا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has completed this Deen. He has perfected His favors, and He has chosen Islam as the only acceptable way of life. We believe that as Muslims. That is our cardinal and fundamental belief in the truthfulness of Deen, and the truthfulness of Deen is upheld by someone who upholds that all of it is truthful. Not that the beliefs are okay and is shaky at the practices. We take the whole package. When this verse was revealed, the Prophet ﷺ was at Hajjatul Wada'. And this was revealed on the day of Arafah. In the time of Umar radiallahu anhu, a group of Jewish people came to him and said that in your Quran there's a verse that if this had been revealed to us, we would have made it a day of Eid, a day of celebration. So Umar radiallahu anhu said, which verse is that? So they pointed out to this verse. The verse in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala announces that today I have completed your deen for you. I have completed my favors, perfected my favors upon you, and I have selected Islam as your deen. Why was this verse something of envy for those people? Why? That they were ready to make a celebration, an annual celebration of it, because no other prophet was given this stamp of finality, of perfection and completion. And now this is the only deen. This was not given to Musa alayhi salam. It was not given to Isa alayhi salam. It was not given to any other prophet. This is one of the outstanding hallmarks of this deen and of our Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala perfected and completed the teachings. These teachings were not something that just showed up one day in Mecca. This was a continuum of teachings from the time of Adam alayhi salam, going through the prophets of Bani Israel, all the way up to Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. This was the completion of all of those teachings. So they were envious that you got these teachings. We didn't get that stamp of finality, of completion. So, connecting with the teachings, learning the teachings, adopting the teachings, and remember one thing. You don't have to understand every single thing before you believe in it. Deen and the truthfulness of Deen is not subject to your understanding or my understanding. Deen is haqq, whether I understand it or I don't. The basics of Deen, the beliefs. How many of us have understood what Allah is? Is there anyone here who can claim that I've understood Allah? No. But we believe in Him, right? How do we believe in Him then? We believe in Him as He has described Himself. كَمَا هُوَ بِأَسْمَائِهِ وَصِفَاتِهِ. We believe in Him as He has told us, and that's good enough. How many of us have understood what a prophet is or what Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was? We don't. And we can't. But we believe in Him because Allah told us about Him. How many of us have understood Jannah? How many have understood Jahannam? How many have understood the phase in between this life and the next? How much of it do you understand, intellectually speaking and logically speaking? You don't. But do you believe in it or not? Believing in it or not believing in it is the line between Islam and something else. So we openly admit our belief in all of these things. Even though we may not have we have some understanding of these things, we have some knowledge about these things, we don't have a minute understanding of every single thing. The same thing applies to all the other teachings, all the other areas of Islamic teachings. It is not obligatory on every Muslim to learn every single thing about their deen. It's not. What's obligatory is you need to know certain aspects of your deen. Al-ilm al-dururi, that ilm which is fard, you need to know that knowledge. That is applicable to you. You need to know it, you need to practice it. Yes, you should try to develop an understanding of it, but if you don't understand the logic and the wisdom behind it, it doesn't matter as long as you do it. Understanding the logic and the wisdom may help you in doing it perhaps with more attention, more devotion, and that's perfectly fine. But remember, this deen is not subject to, in other words, this deen does not become correct and clear only when I understand it. This deen is correct and this deen is clear. I haven't quite reached the understanding that is required. I'll keep working on it. In the meantime, I believe in it as it is. when the Prophet ﷺ came back from Isra and Mi'raj, he was sharing what he saw with his companions. Abu Jahl showed up early and he heard what the Prophet ﷺ was saying. He got up in a big huff and he left. He was so angry. As he was leaving, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was now coming to visit the Prophet ﷺ. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu has no knowledge of what has transpired. He's just coming to see him. So Abu Jahl grabs him and says, tell me something. Hypothetical question. If someone told you that they traveled from Mecca to Jerusalem and then from Jerusalem to the seven heavens and did all of this and came back in the same night, would you believe them? So Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu could have started in his mind, and he was a big businessman. He could have started doing calculations. Let's see, trade route from Mecca to Jerusalem, it would take that many weeks. And then from there up to the skies, well, we don't know. And start doing all these estimates. And then form what you can say a logical conclusion based on the question that was being asked. But he didn't do any of that. When Abu Jahl asked him, would you believe in something like that? He simply said, it depends on who said it. Tell me who said it and I'll tell you if I believe it or not. Now Abu Jahl is more frustrated. And this man, he has so much hatred for the Prophet ﷺ. In fact, you can say Allah had sealed his heart and deprived him. He didn't even say the Prophet ﷺ's name. He motioned with his head. He said, Sahib, your friend. So Abu Bakr says, Wallahi in qala faqad sadaq. If he said it, it's the absolute truth. Did he understand it? No. Can you understand it? No, I can't. I don't need to. I believe in it. That's what Iman is. So we take the teachings, we take all the teachings and we believe these teachings are haqq. The weakness and the shortcoming is from us. Shortcomings in understanding, shortcomings in effort, shortcomings in dedication. We can fall short on all of those things, but this deen does not fall short in anything. So connecting with those teachings at that level, where we truly embrace those teachings and feel like they're a part of us, and we are a part of them. We have been created for these teachings. The second responsibility is to connect with those people that I was talking about. Those people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent as part of the arrangement to make sure this deen lasts. Those who were in the past, those in the present, and those that are to come. These people, after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his companions, these people have the greatest favor upon us because it is due to their efforts and sacrifices that deen reached us in its preserved way. Let me ask you, how can we ever repay someone like Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal rahimahullah, who was beat and whipped and beat and whipped so that he changes his view to say that the Quran is a makhluk? And he denied it, he defied it. And he was tortured again and again, and he was not allowed time for his wounds to heal. He was beat upon those wounds until ultimately he succumbed to those wounds. They never fully healed. They never fully healed. How can you repay him for that? You can't. How can somebody repay Imam Bukhari rahimahullah, who, while upholding the truth, he was banished from his own city. He was banished from his homeland. He was not allowed to enter. And he was out, moving about from one place to another, traveling like a nomad. And he died traveling. How can you repay someone? Someone who has done such a great khidmah for us. Like this, there are thousands of people that every single one of us is indebted to. And we made a big mistake when we cut ourselves off from those people, when we stopped connecting with those people. We don't read about them. We don't learn about them. We don't try to find direction by reading their lives and studying their lives. If somebody were to ask us about them, we have no knowledge. But these are the people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose to give us our deen. And today, I'm sure you'll agree that there's a little bit of disconnect between us and the teachings, as well as between us and those that preserve these teachings for us. That is what needs to be reestablished. So it will take an immense effort. It will take a huge effort on behalf of every Muslim. And some will do it better than others, and some will do it more than others. Some will do it less than others. But this needs to happen with every individual, in every home, in every masjid, in every school, in every place where Muslims congregate. This connection needs to be reestablished. Otherwise, what will happen? Anyone will come along and give us an impression of what Deen is, and we might just be inclined to believe them. And anyone will come along and put doubts in our minds as to our own history and our own heritage, and we will be inclined to believe them. And if you look around the world, there's quite a bit of that happening right now as we speak. So, how do we do it? What does it look like? What does it look like for the average Muslim who just wants to practice Deen? Well, it looks like this. Take out some time to learn your Deen properly. And learn your Deen from people who have the correct knowledge of Deen. That's where it begins. That is a beginning step for everyone, including myself. I also need to learn Deen from those who have the knowledge of Deen. So sit with the people of knowledge, take time from them, and more importantly, free up your own time, some of your own time, and start learning those teachings as they apply to you. Like I said, not everyone has to learn every single aspect of Deen. Start with the basics. Start with that ilm which is fard upon you. The ilm that applies to those aspects of life that you are living right now. If you're a husband, then learn what applies to you as a husband. If you're a wife, learn what applies to you as a wife. If you're a son or a daughter, learn what applies to you as a son or daughter. If you're an employee somewhere, learn what applies to you as an employee. If you're baligh and you pray, then know what applies to you in terms of salat and tahara and all the other acts that are obligatory upon you. If you're a businessman, then know what applies to you as a businessman. What are your obligations? And don't leave it up to chance. Don't leave it up to the upbringing of your parents. Everyone's parents do a great job of raising them, of their upbringing. It doesn't mean that they have equipped you with all the knowledge that you need. Just like your parents didn't teach you all the math that you need, all the science that you need. Your parents didn't provide you with all the education. You went to institutions to gain that knowledge. Similarly, your parents don't equip you with all the knowledge of Deen that you actually need. That's not diminishing anything from what they have done for us. It just means that you need to focus on this and make this a priority. And also, reading and studying, whether it's individually or in groups, the lives of these enormous personalities, these giants, these people that we can say we are proud that they were in this ummah. We are proud to be in the same ummah as they were. Connect with these people. And it's not about their juristic rulings, their fatwas. It's about their lives. It's their life story. What drove them? What qualities did they have? What challenges and difficulties did they face? How did they overcome them? What mattered to them? What was their lifestyle like? What was their manner of speaking like? What were their akhlaq like? The more we connect with that, the stronger our bond with our Deen. And the more the disconnect is, the more the distance is, it's going to get more and more difficult to navigate ourselves through this time and age, using Deen as our GPS, it's going to get very, very complicated. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enlighten our hearts, our minds, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala open up the doors of hidayat. You know, one last thing I'll say before concluding. The whole Quran, from cover to cover, is a book of guidance. It talks about what guidance is, how guidance works, who is given guidance, who is deprived of guidance, and the different types of people in respect to being guided or being misguided. It talks about all of that. So it would make understanding guidance a difficult task because you'd have to understand the whole Quran. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it easy for us. Just like if you try to explain to someone the way to go to a certain place and you tell them about every road and every turn and everything, it gets very complicated and difficult. The person says, look, I don't have the capacity to keep all of this in my head. So what do municipalities do? They put up signboards. Such and such place. Oh, if you go this way, you'll get to Richmond. If you go that way, you'll end up in the USA. And this is how far you have to go. So these signboards make life very, very easy. They take the pressure off of you. Make it easy to know when to exit and where. So similarly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put these milestones along the way that make it very easy, and those milestones are in the form of people. If you find yourself close to these people in your beliefs, your practices, your lifestyle, your akhlaq, the closer you find yourself, the closer you are to the straight path. That is the meaning of Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim, sirat al-ladina an'amta alayhim. Guide me to the straight path. Now that could mean anything. Straight path, like to where, how, where does it start, how do I get there? Allah made it so easy. Alladina an'amta alayhim. Follow those people that Allah has favored. And it's so easy to follow people. To follow the right people. Choose the right people. And who are they? أولئك مع الذين أنعم الله عليهم من النبيين والصديقين والشهداء والصالحين. Allah says, take these categories of people. Take the Anbiya. Take the true followers of the Anbiya. Take those who gave everything, including their lives, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And take those who were upright and pious. Follow these people, you're on the straight path. Consider yourself on the straight path. The closer you get to them, the closer you are to the straight path. It's that simple. Disconnect yourself from them, detach yourself from them. You have no idea where you're going. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us and our families and the future generations of Muslims. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect our iman, preserve us and preserve our families. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept whatever efforts are being done to revive this deen, to establish this deen. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect all of the places that have been established for this deen, the masajid, the madaris, the makatib, and all the other places where the work of deen is taking place. Wa sallallahu wa sallama wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'een. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, la ilaha illa ant. أستغفرك وأتوب إليك وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين.